Hello and welcome to the Kuriaknits channel. My name is Erin. I'm so glad that you've joined me here today. I feel like I'm still a little warm. I was just out working in the garden because it's actually a beautiful day outside. It's sunny! Sun in Ontario in April. What is this? I'm so excited. It's about 9 degrees. We just had a weird thunderstorm, so I think it brought up some warm weather. And it's supposed to get up to 20 degrees next week. I cannot wait. But if you don't know, I moved into this house in December. It's our first home. It's lovely. But I knew that a main project of mine this spring was going to be our backyard or back garden. So basically, I'll try and put in some footage, but our backyard is basically just a dirt pit. So the owner before us, excuse me, the owner before us really didn't do anything with it. It has a beautiful awning with vines, and when it's in bloom in full, it looks quite nice. But the backyard bit, there's some scattered plants around and wood chips, but there's nothing, it's not being productive, it's not doing anything. So my main goal for this year is I know I can't turn the whole back garden into a productive garden, which is what I'd like to work up to. My plan this year is to plant clover or some kind of plant that's indigenous to this area that could work as ground cover. I don't want grass. Grass is labor and water intensive and kind of just sucks up nutrients from the ground, and I just don't feel the need for it. But I've gotten some wonderful recommendations of different wild plants that grow in this area. It seems like the cheapest and easiest is clover. So my plan is to basically rip the whole garden back, salvage whatever plants seem to be growing, and to sow clover throughout most of the yard, and then leave a small space for me to make a small garden this year because it is my very first year gardening and I have just no idea what I'm doing. So that is the plan, and fingers crossed I'll be able to accomplish it. I've read online that the ideal time to plant clover is in May, and so I am planning this April to basically get the whole place cleaned up. I've kind of abandoned one of the corners because it's full of bricks and wood and just crap, plastic, just crap that the previous owners left behind. And so I think that'll be a next year project just because I have so much to do this year and I'm gone for the whole month of July. So maybe I'll tackle it in fall, but this spring I think my main priority is getting something green on the ground so that Gibson, my dog, can run around. And he was outside with me today and he loved it. He was just sitting in the sun, sniffing the air, and it was just like everything I had hoped for with buying a house, is that I was able to be outside with my dog, and he was happy and I was happy in the sun, which is lovely, doing some labor. Yeah, it's just like everything I ever wanted. So I'm really hopeful that I can get that backyard looking nice because yeah, it is a bit of a disaster. And I got to meet my backyard neighbors. We're kind of we're on a street, but the street behind us is diagonal, and so we have two backyard neighbors because it kind of cuts this way. And so I got to actually meet both of them, which is nice. And apparently they're in a book club with each other. So, and they're very different like demographics. So I'm like, is it a neighborhood book club? Can I get in on the book club? What is the situation going on here? I have many questions, but yeah, I am just so happy that the seasons are turning. It's just brought a new life, and I feel like my knitwear is somewhat reflecting that. Certainly the t-shirt that I'm wearing today is, so I have 3 finished objects, can you believe it? And I am done 3 of the 4 test knits that I've been doing now, so that is a huge win for me. So I guess we'll just start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Kaarina Tee by Sari Nordlund. It is lovely, like one of my favorite t-shirts I've ever made. I was very apprehensive last year going into spring summer about Sari Nordlund's summer knits. She's one of my favorite designers in general, but specifically for winter knits. I love her sweaters, but looking at her summer knits, I was like, they look very full. I tend to wear more tank tops in the summer. I don't know if I need something with that much coverage, but I found that with knits, summer knits, I actually do want something with like thicker straps, a little bit more coverage. The camisoles I just can't seem to get right. I do want to try one of those, and I kind of have one. I don't know if it'd be considered a cami. It does have thicker straps, but I just find that they suit me better and I'm able to knit them much better. And so something like this is perfect. Last time I was debating whether or not to put the sleeves on, and I decided to do a sleeve but do a shorter sleeve. And this isn't the exact sleeve from the design because I ran out of yarn. So I tested her sleeve. It was perfect, and then I ripped it back to bind off in an Italian bind off, but the kind for 2x2 where you basically cable the last round and then do the Italian. If anyone's confused on how to do an Italian by 2x2, there's lots of tutorials online, but leave a comment down below and I can try and link one for you. It's not too difficult, but I did that for here and for here, and I think the bottom, yeah, I did the Italian bind off for everywhere, but I did on the sleeves, and Sari has a different technique for her sleeves. So if you look up the design, and I highly recommend you guys check this out, you will see a different sleeve design, and that's the only thing I modified, I think, on this sweater, yeah. And so my sleeves are more cap sleeves. To be honest, I'm keeping it for now. I might still rip it back to the tank top. You guys were undecided as to which looks better in the comments, and I agree, I'm kind of torn. But I'm keeping the sleeves because I have the yarn for it, and I don't mind it as much as I thought I would. I will say that because it's a bit bulkier than some other summer knits, it's a DK weight, I have found it very difficult to wear under sweaters for this time of year, and so I have a feeling that this t-shirt will be kind of something that's worn on its own or not worn at all, which limits its potential outfits, I guess, but is fine for me. I'm sure I'll wear it with shorts as long as the wool isn't too woolly, which it doesn't feel like it is. So I knit this in KFO Pure Silk and Stress Knits Yarn's favorite base. The favorite base is an 80-20 superwash nylon blend, and I'm sorry if you can hear growling, that is my dog playing with a toy outside the door. But hopefully it's not too loud for you. So yeah, that is her favorite space, and honestly this combination is beautiful. I can't believe how well these colors match up with each other. I have all of the color information and things in my Ravelry page if you're curious, but Stress Knits releases on a every so often basis, and so I would definitely keep an eye out if you're interested in buying some of her yarn, but I do believe this is one of her standard colors, so it's called Eucalyptus. So yeah, I'm really in love with the way that this t-shirt works. I've got a DK cotton that I was thinking I might make another t-shirt like this in the same pattern. We shall see, but the cables are really easy to memorize, and I think that they look absolutely wonderful, and I think that the shape of this with the drop shoulder really suits me as well. So I'm really happy with this test knit. This pattern is now out. You can go find it if you're interested in knitting it. And yeah, I'm just really grateful that I was able to jump on another test for Sari, and yeah, I don't think I have much else to say about this one. Let's move on to the next finished object. So sticking with the theme of test knits, I have finished my Oolong Tank. It is truly stunning. It has this beautiful lace paneling down the center, and the lace paneling is kind of like leaves. You'll probably see it in the cutaway better, but I think it's just so beautiful. It is my first ever all over fingering weight tank. Is that true? Yeah, I did one fingering weight t-shirt, but that was at, I think, a thicker gauge. This is definitely the tightest gauge I've ever knit at, and honestly I think I did okay, especially considering I did it all in cotton. So the original is knit in linen quill. I did not knit this in linen quill because I wanted to make sure it was super duper summer friendly. I actually knit this in Crea Deluxe organic cotton that I got in London, England last year. It looks like this. It's a beautiful green colorway. I was trying to find this on their website and I can't find this color anymore. So it is whatever the dark green is, and it is color number 45. So if you're interested, I think that the color is absolutely lovely. You can see that there's definitely a theme going on for my summer knits, and I actually got some more green yarn for a summer knit. But yeah, I think it's lovely. The back is just a plain tank. I did no modifications for this because I was testing. The only thing is that I did have to go down a needle size or two. So I'm pretty sure it's knit in 3.5 millimeter, and then the ribbing is in 3. And I had to go down to 3mm for the body and 2.5 for the ribbing. So teeny tiny needles, but it ended up working out just fine for me. And honestly, it is one of the first times that I've ever attempted to knit, and I can't believe I successfully knit something that's actually pretty tight to my body, which makes it perfect for skirts and kind of voluminous. I've got a lot of like palazzo pants that I wear in spring, summer. So I am so excited to have a knit top, a knit tank that I can wear that with. The only thing that is a little bit limiting for me wearing this is that this panel in the front is very open, and so I definitely need to figure out what bralette works best underneath it, because I tried wearing it with like pasties and it's boob central, which might be okay for like something. Maybe when I'm in Vegas in 2 weeks I'll wear it with that. Probably not, to be honest, but it's very like booblicious, and that is just not the vibe I'm usually going for. So I'll have to find a nice bandeau or something like tank. Almost all of my bras are like tank bras. I kind of gave up the underwire with the pandemic. I feel like that was my bra burning moment. So I'll have to find something that goes well underneath this. But honestly, I am really in love with this, and the yarn itself I quite like as well. I like the finished object more than I like knitting with it. This yarn, just because it's cotton, is super splitty, and even though it's a fingering weight, I find that the plies kind of release pretty easily. But I think as long as this wears well, that can be forgiven with how nice this fabric is. So I would definitely consider making something of this again. And for me, I think 3mm needles are the perfect gauge for this yarn, and I'm just so happy with the way it came out. And I'm so happy that it's like the first design of Aimee Sher's. I don't know if I mentioned that this is the Oolong Tank by Aimee Sher. This is the first design of hers that I've ever tried, and thankfully when you test, she gives you 2 of her designs as a thank you, and so I'm excited to knit some more designs of hers, so you might see that coming up soon. I have one more finished object. The next finished object is something that I might have shown when I first cast it on, but has been on my needles for at least 6 months, maybe longer, and it is my latest Musselburgh. So if you don't know this pattern, it's Musselburgh by Ysolda Teague, and you knit a tube, and then the tube folds in on itself and creates a beanie or a toque if you're Canadian, and it looks like this. So for me, because I don't knit socks, it's my favorite way to use some fun and funky fingering weight bases, and this is what this one looks like. I love this yarn. I love the way that this beanie looks. It's my 5th one, and I think that speaks enough to this pattern. It is definitely my go-to, because usually when you're wearing a hat, you want it to be warm, and one of my favorite parts about this pattern in particular is that it automatically creates a fabric that's double thick. And then if you knit it longer, you can fold up the brim, and then it's 4 times the yarn and on itself right on your ears, and it's perfect. So yeah, I got this yarn. Actually, this is my special yarn purchase at Stephen Penelope. I have lost the label, but I think I tracked it down. I think this is Urban Purl, and it's a silk merino blend. It again is in my Ravelry. I figured out what it was, but I don't quite remember it. And it really does feel really luxurious. I'm interested to see how much it pills with that silk base in there, but so far so good. I haven't worn it very much at all, and I also need to block it. But I have been keeping this in my backpack, and this has been my meeting knit, or the few times I take public transit, it's been my public transit knit, just because it's stockinette in the round, and you go round and round and round for just ages. So yeah, it is my favorite knit to kind of take on the go, because you really, other than the start and finish, you really don't have to think about it. So I am so pleased with how this came out. I think that the colors are just gorgeous. I love these purpley browny grays. It is one of my favorite color combinations. I would love a sweater like this. I think it'd be really cool to get a yarn kind of this light gray color, and then a variegated mohair kind of in these colors to go over top. Maybe one day when I have like $200 to $300 to spend on a sweater, because getting something to look like this is not going to be cheap. I think that this yarn was like 28 euros. So this is quite a pricey hat, but it does signify for me a really lovely time that we spent in Amsterdam. And so I am happy to have spent that on this hat, and I'm happy to have a hat now. And I've got leftover yarn. I think this only used maybe like 3/5 of the skein, and so I'm definitely keeping the rest of that fingering. And I've been considering casting on some kind of fingering or DK weight blanket to use up a lot of the scraps that I've been collecting over the years. I'm thinking a DK, because then I can use my worsted in DK on its own and then double up my fingering weight to make a scrappy blanket of some kind. I really like, I think this is with fingering, the Beacombe quilted blanket. I'll put up a photo. I really love the look of it, but when I look in the Ravelry project pages, some of the people who have made them, they look really bad. And so I love the sample, but I don't love most of what other people have made with that pattern. And so it concerns me a little bit. And I cannot tell if it's, I think it's just the way that people are matching up their colors looks not great. And I'm pretty confident in my ability to match light colors with light colors, but I'm also a little bit worried that it's just going to become like a disgusting hodgepodge of grossness. So yeah, if you have any scrappy blanket ideas, please leave them down below. I'm also open to crochet if it's easy-ish. I can crochet, it's just not my favorite thing to do. I often resort to crochet when I want to do something with my hands, but my hands are a little, I can feel them growing tired of the motion of knitting. I will often switch to crochet for a little bit. I am working on a cushion and a kitchen towel, but I'll share those once they're done. So I really don't have much to say about them because they're all just in, one's in single crochet and one's in double crochet, and they're literally squares. So I really have nothing to say about them. There's no pattern. I'm just using up some yarn and I'm using my hands when I need it. But yeah, please do let me know if you have some blanket ideas, because I would love to hear them. And my only requirement is that they need to be able to use up various types of yarn, and potentially a DK weight. Fingering weight would also be something that I'd look into, but I think for a blanket, anything smaller than a DK weight would kind of be a little thin, no? Or you'd have to do them on really small needles. Especially for me as a loose knitter, I always fear something that calls for like a 3mm needle, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll probably have to go down to a 2.5, and I just don't want to be knitting on 2.5mm needles for that long. So I don't know, let me know. But let's get into the whips. This first one you have seen before. It is my last test knit. It is due in about 2 weeks, and it is the Freddie Pullover by Chen. And I have finished the body, so that is exciting. I did the body to the same length as hers was in her photo. I probably should have checked it more thoroughly, but I actually didn't check the length of what it said to do in the pattern. Oops. I checked instead. I looked at her photo and I looked at how many V's there were from this point down, and I did exactly those many V's because I knew I had gauge, and I'm assuming she has gauge because Chen is the one who wrote the pattern. So I just counted that many V's, and I found that much easier than trying to measure all the time. And then I did the recommended ribbing at the bottom. And yeah, I'm just loving the way that this is coming out. It is such a fun design, and I have had my eye on the Mod Tee and Elizabeth Loves by Petite Knit for this kind of collar specifically, and it was my first foray into double knitting, and now I feel confident with it. It was actually pretty easy. I love the way it feels. But yeah, I love that this is kind of like that idea, but with a design on it. A really lovely cable design. And I'm loving this yarn. I knew I would, but I don't know, I'm just loving the experience of it. This is, ooh, do I have it up here? That's not it. I know I do have, oh, it's right here. Oh my goodness. Falling yarn. This is West Yorkshire Spinner's Fleece Blue Face Luster DK. And I also got this in London when I was last there. And it is just divine. This is my first time using BFL yarn, and I'm loving it. There is like a fluff to it that I really wasn't expecting, like a light halo. I don't know if it'll come across on camera. And while sometimes knitting with it, I find that the plies in the yarn are getting a little bit stuck because I am knitting this on 3.5mm needles. It calls for 4. I had to size down, but the finished fabric is delightful. And it's looking a lot better than the last time you saw it because I replaced my steamer, thank God. And so I gave this a nice steam block, and it's just looking a lot looser, a lot better. The cables are standing out. It smells amazing. Yeah, it actually really smells good. But I can see myself getting a lot of wear out of this. I'm a little worried that by the time I have it done, it'll be a little too warm to wear it, but that's okay. I just have the 2 sleeves to go. I've only just started this sleeve, and it also has a bit of patterning to it. More patterning actually than I thought from the photo, but that's okay. I'm sure it'll go by quickly, and I'm using my new 4-inch chow-goos, so they're much smaller, which is nice. I think this is the 16-inch cord, 12 or 16-inch, I think the 16-inch. So I've been loving, my sleeves have been flying by on the 16-inch chow-goos, and I actually don't love the 12-inch cord as much, or whatever the smaller cord that comes with the 4.5. I also find that a bit too small for my hands. I can deal with it, but it's not my favorite, and I think I would still go back to DPNs for anything smaller than that. So I am thankful to have my DPNs still. I just don't think small circulars are for me, just based on the way that I hold my needles. I even find that these 4mm needles are like at the smallest range of what I want to knit with. So that being said, I think I will be selling my Leica needles, but I haven't posted them yet. But I might post them on my Instagram first, just in case one of you guys want to get them. I might as well put it to the crowd first. The crowd, that's a terrible way. The community first. So just in case, I'd love to send them to a knitter that I might know. So anyways, yeah, so this is this lovely sweater. I don't know if I have anything else to say about it other than I'm excited for it. I've seen some other people in the group that are kind of getting to finish theirs. Some of theirs are making them much longer, where there's like 9 V's underneath this split here, which seems like a lot for me. But yeah, I just love the way this is coming out. The pattern is coming along. This is maybe one of the more difficult tests I've ever been a part of, just because it is a newer designer and the pattern has some hiccups to it, and that's okay. It's been being worked through, but I think now that I'm on the sleeve, I will be running up against that much less. I did have to cast on the sleeve like 3 times, but I think I was counting wrong. It's just something with this pattern is not computing in my brain, and I think part of it's me, part of it that the pattern is just needed some edits, but I think the sleeves is definitely me. It's just I wasn't getting my counts right, and it was driving me up the wall. But you know, so it goes. I have 2 new whips to show you, and they're in 2 new yarns. So maybe, actually, let me talk about acquisitions as I'm talking about these, because they are some exciting ones. So Francesca of Italian Knitter fame had been working with Cascade 220 Superwash on her channel, and she was not loving it. She actually made, got it right here, her and I just happened to be making, oh my goodness, my room is a mess right now. Her and I just happened to be making the Seasons cardigan at the same time, and this is what mine looks like. I had made mine out of Knitting for Olive, double merino, and their pure silk. I wore this today, actually. I love it. But she had been making hers in Cascade 220 Superwash that she had gotten from America, and she was hating the process of it. She had intended to buy Cascade 220, the regular kind, and had accidentally bought the Superwash kind, and she just did not like the feeling of the Superwash. She was not vibing with it, and so she ended up ripping out the cardigan because the pattern was also annoying her. And I sent her a message and said, hey, I know you hate that 220 Superwash. Why don't I send you 220 and you send me your 220 Superwash and we'll just trade. She lives in Italy, so Cascade 220 is not something that's easily accessible to her, and although I could get Cascade 220 Superwash, I really have no reason to buy it, but I'm very happy to send her Cascade 220, and I love the color of her Cascade 220 Superwash. It is a beautiful lilac color, and I was actually dreaming of a lilac cardigan, and so I was like, you know what, that's perfect, we'll just do a trade. And she said yes, and so we actually decided to send each other some like nice yarn boxes, and I sent mine along, she sent hers along, and then she got mine, and then she got hers back. So basically, and I did not know this, apparently shipping to Canada from other countries, especially from the EU, is quite difficult. And so hers got sent back, and she didn't know why, and she was worried that she'd have to pay the shipping costs again. And so she's like, why don't I send you a gift card to your local yarn store? You're getting Cascade 220 anyways, you could buy that there, and I'll just keep my yarn and keep the yarn you sent me, and we'll call it a day. And I said, okay. So if you want to see the yarn that I sent her, please go check out our channel. I sent her some Cascade 220 as long with some other Canadian yarn goodies and some thrifted finds that I found along the years. And so I highly recommend that you check out her channel. Francesca is wonderful, and she is one of my favorite knitters to watch on this website. Anywhere, not that there's other knitters podcasts and knitting podcasts. I guess there are some on Patreon. But anyways, she's one of my favorite people to watch, and she's a great friend. And so she sent me a lovely gift card, and she had ordered some Cascade 220 from my local yarn store, which is Galt House of Yarn in Cambridge, Ontario. I guess they are my local yarn store now. My local yarn store actually closed, which is unfortunate. So they're about a half hour away from me, but they are now my local yarn store, which I actually consider myself quite lucky because Galt House of Yarn actually has an amazing selection of yarn. But she had asked which color I wanted to go for, and I decided to go for this undyed neutrally color because I thought it would be good for both spring and fall and winter and just like more versatile, and I don't have a light colored cardigan in my collection. So I went for this color. It's color 8010, Cascade 220, and look at their new labels. Even when I don't think they had these labels even when I sent her yarn. So I think these are very new because I sent her yarn maybe a month before I was able to pick this up, and I bought it from the same place. So I don't know. And by the way, I am obsessed with her colorway. It is this stunning yellow. Go look at her channel. She shows the yarn. It is beautiful. But we also thought it would be really fun to knit something together, and we both wanted a cardigan. And so we are knitting, all that to say, we are both knitting the Field Day Jacket by Ozetta. We wanted something that was around 17 to 18 stitches per 4 inches, and obviously something that would suit Cascade 220 well. And I had suggested this pattern, and she said, actually, that looks fantastic, and that is what we were knitting. So that is what I have started. This is about one ball in. I have started and almost finished the right hand side, and I am going to be casting on the left hand side probably this evening while I'm editing. She has already completed the whole top half of the cardigan of the body, so she is ahead of me, but I'm hoping I can catch up to her. Fingers crossed. But this is a lovely cardigan. It's going so fast. This is knit on 5mm needles, and I have been knitting everything else on like 3 and 4mm needles, so this feels like it's flying by, which is actually a wonderful feeling. And I find that for my hands, 4.5 is like peak, and so for comfort, and so knitting at 5 just feels natural. I'm just chugging along, having a great day, and so I have just loved knitting on this. Cascade 220 is also one of my favorite yarns, and it's a yarn that I haven't knit with in a little while, so it's just brought back my love for Cascade 220. I'm knitting it with a friend, which is also delightful. I'm knitting it with yarn that was a gift, which is also amazing. And I'm knitting on a light color for spring. It is just like checking all my boxes. It's a wonderful day to be alive. And I'll do the Francesca thing of wearing my knit. So there we go. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way that this is coming along. I love the detail of this button band as well. I don't know if I'm going to put buttons on it. I may not. I may just leave it as an open cardigan. But I think that when this is done, I will get a ton of use out of it. And yeah, hopefully she won't beat me because, I don't know, now it's a competition. But yeah, I am super thrilled with this pattern and the way that it's coming along. It's a lot like Ozetta's other patterns, kind of predictably so, I would say. If you've knit a lot of her other patterns before, I would say that this is pretty standard. And so far, I mean, I haven't finished. I would say it's decent for a beginner as well. If you're looking for a beginner-friendly cardigan pattern, I would maybe start with a raglan first, because I think raglans are the easiest construction for top-down knitting. But this for a drop shoulder, I think that this is a lovely construction, and yeah, I've been really loving it so far. So wonderful pattern, wonderful yarn. Not much else to say about that. And then she had sent me a gift card as well to accompany my lovely Cascade 220 yarn, which was so unbelievably kind of her. So thank you, Francesca. And one of the things that is first, I think, to North America, Galtez yarn got Ozetta. And I had actually been in there not intending to get Ozetta at all. I was actually planning to get Sandisgarn Sunday, which I've literally never tried. I cannot believe it. But their color of purple was a little bit darker than this, and I have been dreaming of her Cascade 220 Superwash in the color lavender for a lavender cardigan. And so I was like, well, if I'm not getting that yarn, I need to source my own lavender yarn. And so I found this color and I thought it was beautiful. And so this is Ozetta. It's 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. It is definitely more expensive here than it is in Europe. So I bought it here because I wanted to cast on immediately, but knowing that I'm going to Europe in 3 months, oh my gosh, this year is going by so fast, guys. It's already Easter. Happy Easter. I'm filming this on Holy Thursday, but yeah, if you're watching this over Easter weekend and you celebrate, happy Easter, happy Passover. Do you say happy Passover? That's a bit weird. Anyway, yeah, it's definitely cheaper to get in Europe, so I think if I had been a little bit more patient, it would have definitely been a lot more economical for me to buy this in England and then just bring it in my suitcase over. But North America, it's not bad, and it's cheaper than Sandisgarn Sunday is here. So I think that if you are able to get this, and in North America, I definitely think it's a worthwhile yarn, and it's probably the nicest superwash yarn I've ever used personally. It's not too superwashy. So I guess take my recommendation with a grain of salt. But I got this yarn, and I got it specifically to pair with this giant cone of mohair. Now, looking at this giant cone on its own, I did not realize how light of a purple this was. And so I took a little swatch of this into the yarn store and tried to pair them up. And although there was one yarn that matched almost perfectly, I actually didn't like how light the sweater was going to end up. And so I decided to experiment a little bit and see what these look like together. And so it's going to be a little bit weird. This is a mohair blend of some sort. Does it specify? I know I had looked this up at one point and determined it was a mohair something blend, but I don't actually know what the mohair is blended with. But it also has loops in the yarn, kind of like a boucle. So it's like a thicker mohair. So I would say a strand of this, I would say this is closer to a fingering. And so I would say a strand of this is closer to 2 or 1.5 strands of regular mohair. So I'm doing a DK weight sweater, so it's not going to affect it too much. And I decided to cast on the Pippin Cardigan by the Knit Purl Girl, and I've only just started. But I think I keep going back and forth as to whether this sweater is going to be pretty or like ugly pretty, as the colors do not match, and this mohair is so fluffy, but I think it's gonna end up being ugly pretty. I keep looking at it. It's not high on my priority list right now. It should be. I think it's perfect for this time of year, but I just have other knitting priorities, and I'm also like, I keep going back and forth as to whether the texture of this cardigan is actually going to suit it or not. But you know what? I almost don't care. I'm very happy to be finally using this. I thrifted this for like $2 of Value Village. It is gorgeous. I could probably skein it up and hold it on its own, but I wanted to hold it with something because that's just so much fluff. And I had that with this one. I thrifted this and I used 3 strands of this mohair, and I realized I don't love an all mohair sweater. I don't wear that very often at all. Like once or twice I've worn it, and I don't want that again. I want to be able to utilize my knitwear. So I knew I had to pair it with something, and so I've done this. And I'm excited to continue it. I think it's going to be ugly pretty. I'm very excited for it. And the Pippin Cardigan is a lovely pattern. I tested the Pippin sweater and I love that pattern. I wear that sweater all the time. It's a little bit, I did it in a yellow, like a fall yellow though. And so it's a little bit, it feels out of season to wear right now, but through fall and winter, I wore it a ton. And so I think that the Pippin's cardigan is going to suit me a lot. Will this yarn stand the test of time? Will I love this sweater in 5 years? I do not know. But someone will, and if all else fails, it will be a home cardigan. But I have hopes that this combination will end up being like a secretly really good combination because I don't know what I'm doing. I keep looking at this cone and I knew I wanted a lavender sweater and I could have gotten the Tilia to match this. And would that have made a nicer sweater? Probably. But I have this at home and it just feels wasteful to not use it when I'm making a light purple sweater, you know? And all of you guys keep yelling at me that I look so good in purple. I'm listening, okay? I'm gonna make the purple, but I'm gonna make it a little bit weird. So anyways, I got the Ozetta with the gift card. I'm very happy I did. I'm very happy to start this cardigan. When I finish my last test knit, that's going to be another focus of mine. And I've also been knitting on a few other things that I just didn't bring to show because I haven't made very much progress. I've been working on my Semper sweater v-neck. I have one sleeve left to go, but the mohair is the mohair that keeps digging in. And so I've been doing like 5 rounds on the sleeve a day. And we're getting there. And then my TV knitting downstairs has been my sweater number 23, which has been on hold for a while, which also has the same mohair problem, and I'm almost done the body. So when I finish something decently substantial on either of those, I will bring them to show you, but I don't have much to say on either of them because both of them I'm just knitting in the round, and if I brought them in every episode, I'd like show you and I'd be like, look, I did 2 inches, and that's just not very entertaining. So yeah, if it feels like I've knit less this time, which I don't know if it actually does, but if it feels like that, I haven't. It's just that some of my knitting time has been spent elsewhere. And then with the gift card from Francesca, I also bought some Sandnes Garn Lena or Line, depending on how you want to say it, as a kind of homage to her. This is one of her favorite yarns. She's used it in a ton of projects that I love the look of, and I have also used it twice as well, and I really love this yarn. This is one of my favorite summer yarns. It is a 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen blend, and it's really beautiful. I got it, no surprise, in a green color, but it's just slightly darker than this green. Do you see the difference? I don't know. And what's annoying, I might exchange it actually, because I just saw on Instagram today that Galt House of Yarn got this color, like this yarn in the jelly bean green. I'll try and put a photo up, which is like a bright green that Sandnes Garn just came out with, and I really like it. So I should probably stop like manhandling this yarn. I might see if I can go exchange the skeins I got, because although I love this green, it is very close to this green. And if I'm going to stick with my green palette, maybe I should try like a different green. I don't know. But there is a light green that is the same green as this green, and I did not get that green, although it is the first green I grabbed. So if you see me wearing knitwear this summer, chances are I'll be in green, but I think that green really suits me. I've got eyes that are blue or green depending on what color, what the light is that day, and so I feel like it just works, and I like the color green more than I like the color blue, so it's what I'm drawn to. I don't know what to say. But anyways, thank you so much, Francesca. It was, I've been trying to save money because of some family stuff going on, and so it was so lovely to be able to go into a store and get some yarn. And I'm glad I'm able to cast it on in projects right away. Although I have yarn to spare, I guess. A lot of it is for like fall and winter projects, because a lot of it is like thrifted Ontario, really rough wools. And so that's not really suited to this time of year. And I've just been really excited to cast on some spring items, and I've just been really enjoying knitting with the things that I'm knitting on this time of year. And I'm really excited to transition into spring summer. Although summer knits are definitely not my favorite knits. For whatever reason, I just really love the changeover of the season and also the changeover in the colors. I'm just drawn I guess I'm too in with the trends. I'm like drawn to spring colors in spring and fall colors in fall. And maybe that's a flaw in my character, but I don't know, it gets me excited to be able to look, especially at this, for whatever reason, this color is just really singing to me. So I'm really excited to be able to knit on something like this. And also really excited to have just some beautiful summer objects to add to my wardrobe. This shirt, it's been just really fun. So I think I will be putting off casting on any more true summer objects until like May, June, just because I really want to take the time to knit with wool as long as I can. And judging by last year, I will have projects that will run into September and October that are summer objects. And I'm working on a design, which is my first ever design. I have it all sketched out. I have a lot of the math done, and I've done swatches. So I'm really excited for that, and that I'm hoping to do a September release. So I need to get on that. So I'm hoping to get that on my needle soon, so I'm not knitting wool in the dead of July. But I guess I can't. I'll be in England. Chaos, guys. So yeah, it's gonna be a busy time ahead. I am headed to Vegas in 2 weeks for a friend's bachelorette party. I'm terrified. Don't give me any tips because I'm going with the flow. I have no idea what's happening. I'm afraid. But I'm just like trying to get my inner peace. I'm going with the flow. I've never been to Vegas, never been in Nevada. I'm excited to see it. I think it'll be really interesting. But yeah, it's gonna be like a madhouse of a trip. It's like 4 days, and I need to finish my thesis proposal before I go, just for my own sanity. So that's what I'm working on for the next 2 weeks. I've got that, and then I've got a weekend of working. The week after, I've got like a work event, and then 2 weeks after that, I'm going to a conference in Michigan, which is gonna be interesting. I'm going with a friend who's never been to the States before, so it'll be fun to like show a friend around the States. I'll show her Target and flags, and I don't know, what do you show someone when they haven't been to America before? Serving sizes. I'll show her like Dunkin' Donuts. I actually love Dunkin'. I'm excited to get some Dunkin'. That's all like when Canadians go to the States, especially for us, if I'm just going to like Michigan or New York State, I'm like, I want to go to a Target. I want to get Dunkin'. I'm going to go to a Walmart and get some groceries. This is what excites me. So I have that trip, and then I'm starting intensive Latin classes in May as well, and that's going to be basically my whole May and June. And then sometime at the end of June or beginning of July, I'm going to England for a month. So there will be more travel podcasts in the future, and I will be mostly in Kent, but I might be in and around England. I know I'll be up in, I was there last year. Why can't I think of the name of it? Leeds. I'll be in Leeds for a bit. I'm hoping to go to Scotland for a bit, because it's just my favorite place in the world. And yeah, so if you guys have any recommendations, that I will take recommendations on, places to see, especially in Kent. I think I will be based in Maidstone. I don't know for sure, but I need to start planning that trip as well. I'll be doing archival work, so that's very exciting. But yeah, let me know what you're knitting on. Let me know what you're looking forward to this spring summer. It finally feels like the earth has lifted to the place where we can see the sun again, and the temperatures are rising, and it's just been very uplifting. So I hope you are all having an incredible week, and I will see you next time. Bye.